Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest Brain or Shine podcast with myself, Mark and Jules.
Hello, everybody, and so lovely to see some of you already saying hello on the messages and from all over the world as well. That's very, very touching for us. Thank you for joining, and especially if you've not joined in before.
Yeah, it's nice. Hi, Nicholas, as well. We didn't get a chance to reply in the chat, so we'll say hello in person. Hi, Sue, as well. Hi, Kerry. Hi, Karen.
Amanda, hello.
Yay, welcome. So that's really nice, actually, because sometimes we don't know where people are from. So actually having that is really, really good to see straight away. But yeah, just a little welcome and intro from both of us. So first of all, we'll introduce ourselves in a second because we know that some of you are joining for the first time ever. Just to let you know, we can see your chat, which is lovely, and everybody else can see what you put in the chat. We can't see your faces or can't see you, so your privacy is private, so to speak. So don't worry if you're sitting there thinking, I feel really fatigued or I need to lay flat on the sofa or whatever. That's absolutely fine. The second thing is going back to the chat, please do interact in there. If you find a point of something that you want to say or ask, then do pop it in the chat. We might be mid-flow with something, so we might come back to that slightly later or at the end of what we're saying. So please don't think we've missed it or we'll be ignoring you or anything like that. It just might disrupt our flow a bit. There is a recording of this as soon as we finish the live video, and that will get emailed to you. If you're watching this recording, then obviously you know that because it's already happened. But yeah, it's a fantastic system, so you get that. And we always aim to be around about 30 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes. So we do appreciate that brain injury and fatigue go unfortunately hand in hand. So concentration levels, certainly for me as well, can be quite difficult. So that's that bit. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that's all of it really. So get my voice working.
And we better tell you guys who we are, just in case you haven't met us before. So many of our watchers, listeners, engagers will know that I'm Mark and I have the brain injury, and I live with these side effects every day. But I only live with the hidden side effects because I'm fully functioning after my brain injury. So yeah, as I say, I live with the hidden side effects of the brain injury, all the hidden disabilities. But obviously, Jules lives with them every day as well because she has to live with me, of course.
And yeah, it's the hidden disabilities, which is what we're going to be discussing, and accepting the hidden disabilities. And thank you, Tim, for saying that we're beautiful. That's really lovely. And it's crazy when you think about one small moment in your life can have such a devastating effect, not just on the person that has suffered the brain injury, but as Tim quite rightly calls it, the ripple effect. And it goes on and on and on. So it's the partners, the friends, the families, the brothers, the sisters, the daughters, the sons, your friends, work colleagues, employers. The ripple effect is huge following on from a brain injury. And often the hidden disabilities are not the ones that you can either be aware of or become aware of until quite a while after the actual event that caused the brain injury.
No, not at all. And it was certainly something that hit us a little bit further down the line. So again, for those of you that know our story, I was pretty much released from hospital 8 weeks after my accident and told to go and live my life as normal, but also given a timeline of about 6 months when I was led to believe that things would return to normal. And that to me is a challenge. It was great news, and certainly the same for Jules as well. We just thought, great, we can get on with this. Okay, I'm probably going to be a little bit weak at first, but that really affected what we're going to talk about today in the process of acceptance. Now, we just drew a little timeline today because somebody was talking a little while ago about saying it's so hard to accept brain injury. And I think the first thing you got to do is understand it, because you can't accept something that you don't understand. So the timeline we put is, first of all, understanding the brain injury, then you can accept what you understand, and then you can put a plan to move forward with how you're going to live with, and basically look at ways that your life will change, because we all know it changes. Seen a lot of things here in the chat as well about people saying, how they've been affected as well.
And I think the other major problem or issue with hidden disabilities is they are not given or told to you when you've suffered your brain injury. Whatever has happened to cause it, wherever you go to in terms of hospitals or to actually help you with your accident or whatever, they will fix you physically. But the hidden disabilities, because they are hidden and you can't see them, nobody tells you what these might be. There is very little information given out afterwards to help you with this. And it's only once you're back in your home environment after your brain injury that these start appearing. And very often the person with the brain injury can't see the changes. And that's certainly what happened in our situation.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a list here that we're preparing for today and for this month's theme of acceptance. And we know from some of our regulars here that you're going to totally agree with this, but memory loss and forgetfulness was one of the main ones. Biggest one for me, certainly, and the biggest one from talking to a lot of friends within the brain injury community, is what we call brain fog or fatigue. And again, this is something that happened today. I woke up this morning, I felt really, really ready to do some work, do some tasks that we were going to work on. Jules was out this morning. She had a nice little jolly, by the way, which was well deserved. But yeah, Jules was out this morning. She went out to play some sport, play some paddle tennis, and then go for a birthday meal with somebody. So I thought, right, I'll crack on and do all these things this morning. And by 10 o'clock, I was really struggling to focus. And by 11 o'clock, 11:30, I just need to go and switch off and lay down. And this just completely floored my day. But because I've gone through the understanding process, I know that these things are going to happen. I accept that I'm going to get fatigued from time to time. I could then move forward and think, do you know what? If I sleep now for around about an hour, then I'm going to be more functional this afternoon. If I'd have fought it, then this afternoon would have been a write-off. And
we might be struggling right now.
I'd be struggling right now. And to be honest with you, I feel probably 9 out of 10 at the moment, which is fabulous. I can get to that level. But the memory loss, fatigue. We also struggle in focus and concentration, which I've already said. Speech and communication issues. And my voice actually does feel like it's not quite working properly today. So I'm aware that I haven't said anything wrong yet. But I feel like my words are bumbling very slightly and I'm having to get
You're
there.
doing well.
I'm doing well.
You're doing well.
And also changing mood and personality was a big one in the early days for me as well.
So yeah, coming to terms and understanding the hidden disabilities is one of the biggest things that we are really helping or want to change within the brain injury community, because as we've said, it's not out there. There isn't forms of help for people, so we want to change that. But as we have said, understanding is the first part to the whole accepting the change process. And it is a process, it's a healing process, and unfortunately, it is a slow process, but it is a process that if you can go through it and find the support to help you understand the hidden disabilities, what a brain injury is, what you can expect that might happen, and how you can work out your triggers, how you can try and manage the disabilities, then that acceptance starts happening.
Yeah, definitely. I remember in the early days not realizing what fatigue was. And again, we've just talked about it. I sometimes struggle to know what triggers it as well. I have a good idea what will trigger it, but then when it hits me sometimes, I think, well, what have I done to cause this? I've had a few easy days or something. I'll be honest with you, I do live life quite busy sometimes, but it just sometimes waves over you. There you go, there's my speech. And I just don't know what to do sometimes in order to prevent it. So I just tend to go with it and think, right, okay, I understand that this is what fatigue feels like. So then I can accept and move on to the next stage of it. Whereas probably in the early days, I used to beat myself up or push through. So that episode that I mentioned this morning, I would have just pushed through with that and thought, right, this is getting really frustrating because I can't focus on something that I'm trying to do at the moment. So I would have pushed and pushed and pushed, probably got frustrated. And by the time Jules would have got home, it probably wouldn't have been a great experience because she'd have had to have dealt with my frustration, I suppose.
I know there's many a time where Mark would start a day, like you said this morning, full of beans, really, or just full of, oh, I'm going to get this, that, and the other done. And maybe I would pop to the shop or do something, and I'd come back and I'd have a completely different person than the person that I left. And this was back in the early days before we had the support and the understanding of the hidden disabilities. And I think, Mark's mentioned the fatigue, but the fatigue and the brain fog then cause things like anxiety and the mood and the change of emotions. And I think that's certainly one of the very, very difficult areas to understand, to live with, and to work out your coping mechanisms around those, because Mark can be so up and down. And even though it is now, 10 years?
12 years, isn't it?
12 years, since Mark's injury. But in all fairness, it's 6 years since we got the help that we needed. We still suffer on a daily basis. So accepting it doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, great, I've accepted it, so everything's going to be fine. It's not that. And can I also say, the whole process of accepting these changes does not mean that you've given up or you're giving in to it. It means that you're saying, okay, this is where we are, so how do we move forward? So I don't want anybody to ever think, well, if I accept it, that means my life's over, or I'm never going to change. You can. What you have to do is work out your ways as a family or partners or whatever, how you're going to manage these disabilities. And the big one is the emotional change and the anxieties and the constant changes that will happen throughout each day. And not one day is ever going to be the same as the other.
Not at all. I'm just catching up on some chat here as well, because I just seen Robert put in there, this is a little bit unrelated to what we're talking, but launching a not-for-profit as well. So Robert, definitely drop us a line, because we can talk a little bit more about that, and fair play to you as well.
Yeah, because invisible nature of it is. It's invisible, and that's the hardest thing. And that's the hardest thing about trying to educate, I think, your family, your friends, if you are working, your work colleagues, your boss, whatever, because they will look at you, and I can't tell you how many times we've heard, well, he looks all right. Well, he does. Yeah. He looks okay. But trust me, he's not. It's not like that, as you guys all well know.
And another thing I was just going to touch on with Robert doing that is a fantastic way of gaining understanding, because we gained so much from this. I didn't know a lot about stroke, post-concussion syndrome, and certain other brain injuries as well. I always thought that a brain injury was caused by traumatic brain injury, a TBI, which I suffered. So there's so many different ways out there, and that's what Sue's put in there as well. I just saw something else on here I wanted to touch on as well, which is a little bit further around.
Watching TV causes fatigue. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get frustrated sometimes, and I have to very, very gently talk to Mark about the amount of screen time sometimes he has.
Yeah.
Because I can see the tiredness, the fatigue kicking in, probably before he actually feels it. Because things like you mentioned earlier, the slurring of the voice, the not getting your words out in the right order, little things, but yeah, they're there.
Yeah. And also as well, Amanda said the inconsistency around cognitive fatigue can be really difficult to explain to others. Although
it looks as though I am king.
I'm choosing what I do. It's very tricky.
It is.
And I'm totally with you on that, because again, I can go to an event, or I can go to a social, or I can go to something sporty, and all of a sudden the fatigue's hit me, and I can't explain it to somebody because I start yawning, or I start trying to fight the fact I'm yawning. It's really, really difficult as well, especially if you don't know the person very well, to say, look, do you know what? I've started yawning, you're not boring me, but I have a brain injury, and then you've got to explain all that. And then, of course, if you go down that route, everybody wants to know everything about you and everything about your brain injury, which is even more fatiguing. And Karen's also put in there, how do I help my brother who's struggling with acceptance?
I mean, there is some sort of literature out there on forums like Headway, isn't it? There's charities. If you're not already on our peer-to-peer brain injury group, then please, maybe your brother can come on there and ask some questions, and everybody will help in terms of what they're experiencing and how they cope with it and how they can recognize it. And it's what I was saying earlier, that these symptoms, once you've accepted them, they're not going to go away, but you can learn to live with them. And we're going to just look at some of the things that we've used, or ideas, and people within these charities will be saying the same sort of things on how you can learn to live and move forward with these hidden disabilities.
Yeah. So one of the first things I was going to just mention here as well is a little bit about the understanding to start with. So if you understand that if you have a brain injury, or if your partner or family or friend has a brain injury, then it's going to, so we have some very noisy people just walking past, if you hear that. If you understand, and hold on, I just totally lost my track.
No, it's because of
distractions of brain injury. So if your partner or family or friend has a brain injury, the understanding part is really key. And we talk quite a lot, and we've studied quite a lot, what's called neuroplasticity. This means that it is possible for you to rewire your brain. It is possible for you to actually relearn things or learn new things. And this is regardless of whether you have a brain injury or not. Now, obviously, the brain injury impairs the ability to retrieve and process information, as we all know. And just like that distraction of the people walking past outside, that completely throws me more than it ever did before. Now, I accept that I can stop and apologise almost and say, look, that just really threw me. Where was I? And go back to it. But the neuroplasticity had to reroute my neural pathways. That was actually quite good timing, wasn't it?
Yeah, we didn't plan that. We didn't have actors walking past or anything.
So the best analogy I can give you is if you're travelling from a point A to a point B, and there's a blockage in the road. So it could be roadworks, or a car's broken down, or whatever. And the road's closed off. Now you have to take a diversion. The diversion will obviously still take you to the same point, but it will take you longer to get there. And that's what the brain injury does. It takes sometimes your thought process longer to get there. So effectively you're doing the journey, but you're having to reroute it. Another one's a rail replacement bus service as well. They're always quite common in the UK.
Same as brain injury.
Yeah, so we go and turn up for a train, and all of a sudden you've got to get onto a bus and get a bus to the station, and that takes you a little bit longer.
It does.
Now, I read a study that it can sometimes take up to 5 times longer or harder thought process for you to actually achieve the same outcome that you did pre-brain injury. So it is possible to do that. So that's the understanding.
It is possible to do that. And as Mark just said, it will take some time and some perseverance. And something that we've all learned to live with is patience, to have patience. I now have a lot more patience, I think, than I ever did, even though I was quite a patient person
before, yeah.
But I find sometimes this is quite a frustrating situation to be in. But if I was to let out those frustrations, or say to Mark, oh, why is this not working? All that will do will cause him more anxiety and make the situation worse. So yeah, learning that sort of patience is good. Sue said that she's trying to accept that other people just can't fully understand. Absolutely, they don't mean not to, But because they're not living with it 24 hours like we are, I often get told, well, he's just being lazy. I wish I could go to sleep every day for an hour or go and have this lay down or whatever. It's like, well, I wish he didn't. And the other day, the last few weeks, through something that happened a few weeks ago, we're still living with a knock-on effect of how it's absolutely flawed Mark's confidence, everything. And, I'd give anything to be able to wave that magic wand and just get rid of this fatigue, this anxiety, this lack of confidence, this disbelief in himself, so that we can go back to the life that we had pre-brain injury. But we know that we can't, and we just have to try and work our way through the situations that are happening at the moment.
Yeah.
And, and what it's causing, the confusion that Mark's been suffering with as well the last few weeks. And I don't know if anybody else here suffers from night terrors. When Mark's really, really suffering with his emotions, he gets night terrors, which terrify me. So I have no idea what it must be like for him actually seeing these dreams or whatever. But yes, it's very, very difficult to get people to fully understand. And if you can then accept that they don't, then it'll make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah, one thing that Jules was just saying earlier, so the understanding of the fatigue that I know after rest, and then you mentioned about people saying it's good that I can sleep in the afternoon. Somebody actually said to me the other week, you're really lucky that you can sleep in the afternoon. I'd love to have an afternoon nap. And I thought I'd love not to, as Jules was just saying.
Yeah.
But again, the acceptance process for me is that it's just somebody just being nice. They weren't being confrontational. They weren't being nasty. And they weren't being derogatory. So I just took that as this person has a blissful ignorance of my brain injury, and I have no problem with that. Now, I've got two choices at this point. I could stand there with them and say, look, this is why I have to sleep in the afternoon. And that then might educate them. It might make them feel bad. It might make them feel empathy or whatever. I don't know. Or I could just say, yeah, do you know what? That's fine. Unfortunately, it's just something I have to live with, and I can move on very quickly from it. And they're normally the two choices I make. I don't get angry about it because my acceptance process is that people are going to say these sorts of things to me. People are going to say, yes, you look great, or you ran such and such race at the weekend, or you played sport this morning, or you're really lucky because it didn't affect you physically. And yes, I am lucky for all of those things. But I do actually manage to lose the anger and lose the defensive side of things and just think that, do you know what, this is the way things are. And then that takes us really to the third stage, which is actually moving forward and thinking, okay, so what do we do next? And I feel a lot for Jules a lot of the time because we go to do something, a process, and I can't function. And then all of a sudden, whatever that process is affected. Now, I might function at 50%, and we still get the task or the process or whatever we're doing, whether it's something nice done, or I might function higher or lower, and I might have to stop the process altogether. And that can be really, really difficult, especially with Jules, who's not suffering these side effects of brain injury because she's ready to go off and, I don't know, hike around a mountain or something like that, whatever we're going to plan to do. It's like, I can't do it. I've got no energy. So it is difficult, but the process of moving forward is always, it's about setting the goal and accepting how you're going to move forward with it. And as Jules said, it doesn't have to be defeatist acceptance. It can be
absolutely
what is
a positive acceptance
and
thinking to yourself, right, okay, this is where I am now. And focusing first of all on the things that you can do as opposed to the things that you can't do, and using that positivity, that positive growth mindset, and the way that you talk to yourself will make a massive impact on your life. So if you're telling yourself constantly, well, I don't think I can do that anymore, or I can't do that, or this isn't going to happen, literally your brain will believe that as to be the truth and stop trying to help you do the things that you want to do. But if you switch it round and think to yourself, I really want to learn how to do that. How can I do that? What should I go for to find out how I can do that? And just change the way that we are, then that will massively help you in moving forward with your hidden disabilities.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that we've found over the years, we've worked with teenagers in education for over 25 years now. And when we've gone into schools and colleges in the past, the words I can't come out massively. So we'll say to a student, for example, we want you to draw this object. And they'll say, I can't draw, I'm rubbish at drawing. So then all of a sudden, the process has stopped. Because as soon as you say you can't do something, your brain has stopped searching for ways to do it. Now, if you say, okay, maybe I'm not great at drawing, but how could I do this? All of a sudden, you're sending a signal to your brain to say, how can I do this? And your brain starts looking for solutions. And the positive mindset and the language that you use is really, really key. So I know sometimes where my limitation is. I've got a really simple, but to me, complicated form to fill in. And it's in the form of an email. And I read it the other day and I thought, do you know what, I can't do that. And then all of a sudden I thought, no, actually, I don't want to do it. The process is I probably could do it if I want to, but I need Jules's help with it. And for me, it would be a lot easier if Jules just done the whole process, but I can't just bomb out of this process and say I'm not doing it at all. So I had to change my language very quickly and think, okay, I can't do this to, I don't want to do this, but how can I make a progress on this form? How can I get it completed? Which is, it's open on my laptop and it will stay open until I sit down and say to Jules, can you help me with this? So it is sometimes about looking at a process forward. But if you can remove the word I can't from your vocabulary at times and think of if it is physically possible to do, then how can you do it? Now, it might take you 10 times longer or 5 times longer, as we just explained with the process of the rail replacement bus service or the diversion or whatever. But if you think, okay, how can I do this? How can I achieve this? Or how can I take a step forward? Or even better, who can help me with it? Because sometimes it is that little process, that little thought process that can take you to the next level. And that's almost like your solution. So we had the understanding, we had the acceptance. And that to me is the way of moving forward. And it doesn't mean about, as we mentioned before, giving up and saying, this is it. I've accepted it now. I'm not going to move forward. It's accept and move forward.
Acceptance is the springboard of moving forward. It really, really is the start of it, and how you can begin to live your life back on your own terms.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's a great way to explain it. I'm just going to put in the chat. I think it was Karen said, can a link be sent for the peer-to-peer group?
I think she had to log off as well at some point.
Oh, I see.
We will send it to you. But on the chat there as well, just catching up a few things, and there's some lovely comments. Thank you very much for the really nice feedback. Sue said it was really helpful. Really appreciate that.
Oh, well done, Sue, on sewing.
Oh, wow.
10 times longer. This is it. Mark does things. It takes him a little bit longer than it ever used to before. But if you're still doing it, it's such a positive thing to be able to still do something.
Yeah. And just one thing, and this is not to blow my own trumpet or play my own guitar, so to speak, but last year I decided I wanted to learn to play the guitar. It's always been a passion of mine. And now I can play the guitar and also sing at the same time, which is something that people say that men can't do, a multitask. Absolutely joking aside there, removing the sexism from that.
Yeah, but you want to be a rock star.
I want to be a rock star, yeah. But it's shown it is possible, and it's something that I've always wanted to do, and I've never got outside my comfort zone to do. It is hard. It's really, really hard to learn something new, but it is possible to do it. And I just done that by practicing for 5 or 10 minutes a day. Sue's saying that she can sew, and it takes longer. It took me longer to learn the basic chords on the guitar as well. And there's certain things it will take all of us longer to do. So fair play to you. And also, it's nice that Nicholas has put in there about Tim being a great man as well. So that's great, because he is a great man. So thank you, Tim, and welcoming Nicholas along to the group.
Oh, and Robert, I know it's a long story, but you think you're awesome now. I'll tell you what, mate, you are blooming awesome.
Yeah, too right.
Well done, well done.
But we're just aware of time. We said we're going to finish around 6 o'clock. It is 6 o'clock now. So we want to thank you all for being lovely, lovely people and engaging in the chat. That makes our job so much easier.
And we hope that's helped you in terms of coming to terms with the hidden disabilities and the whole accepting and how that can be your springboard to creating and moving forward to creating the life that you want.
Definitely. So there'll be a recording available as soon as we log off from this. We also, if you go to our website, which is brainorshine.com, you can find a link from that onto our peer-to-peer support Facebook group. And please do interact on that as well, because we learn so much. And it's a pleasure to see people posting on there, even if it's positive, negative, whatever. Just put on there whatever you want. It is a private group between all of us. So Facebook peer-to-peer support group. We've got an Instagram feed and a YouTube channel with sporadic tips going out on there. And we also have a podcast and a blog. And please do listen to those. Please do pass them on. So I'm trying not to read the chat.
I know, I've read them. Amanda wants you to sing next time.
Oh, fantastic. Do a live performance. I might record something and put it on there. Thank you, Amanda.
Fabulous.
So yeah, go to brainorshine.com for all of those. But yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so
lovely.
much.
Oh, thank you, Louise. I hope you're okay as well.
Yes.
It's been a little while since I've seen you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's lovely. I met Louise and Tim locally as well. So thank you. But yeah, we're going to log off now. So we want to wish you all a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, middle of the night, wherever you're dialing in from, because this has gone out worldwide, which is lovely.
Which is fantastic. So yes, lots of love to you all, and we'll see and speak to you very soon.
Yeah, take care, everybody. See you soon, and bye for now.